We have almost, right now, life groups, so just life groups, and I'll define that here in a second. Just life groups, we have about 15 active life groups right now. That's incredible, that's awesome. Our learn groups, our learn environments is kind of what I would call classes. We have about 5 of those going right now. That's fantastic. 15 groups, and I believe that God is calling us to more. So I would say we're split half and half. Half of you in this room are currently leading a group. The other half are either I roped you in somehow, no, you've been identified by someone as someone who loves groups and are gifted at it. And the whole purpose of this isn't to teach, because I don't really have a deep well as far as teaching. You guys could teach much better than I could. But the whole purpose of us getting together is to kind of clarify some vision and some, maybe just get on the same page as far as some tips and tricks that we can all go in this direction. If we're all going in this direction as life groups and learning environments, then what we're going to find is just a whole bunch of people, hundreds of people, affected in a positive way toward discipleship. Because the whole idea is to lead others. So that's our job as leaders or facilitators, to lead others into a growing relationship. So that's what I'm hoping to see. Mike Bradfield is actually in this room. That guy right there. Mike, can you say hi? Okay. If you've never met Mike, he's heading up and he's owning, obviously with lots of support, our learning environments, our adult discipleship, education, that kind of thing. So Mike and I are going to be buds, because what he does affects life groups. So I'm not looking for a specific answer. So this is really general, but in your experience, in your opinion, in your space in life, why do we even have groups outside of Sunday morning? Wow, they're rocking in there. Relationships, okay. I would say that's a big one.
Just have to be, more vulnerable with people.
Because you can't do that on Sundays, right?
Talk about real stuff, yeah.
Right. So vulnerability, yeah.
You
What else?
become accountable to one another.
Accountability. Yeah, you can't really get that in the big group environment. We're struggling with that. Our reach-in discipleship environments, we're talking like, hey, we want to have the feel where we can recognize when people aren't here. Like, how do we do that? And strategically, that's really hard. Well, if someone's in a group, and they're kind of struggling, man, they're going to be discipled. They're going to be ministered to. That's right. Absolutely. Accountability in multiple ways, spiritually and even just presence-wise. Was that where you were going with that, or a different direction? Okay. What else? Anything else in your experience that maybe groups have been to you?
Encouragement.
Encouragement?
Mm-hmm. Encourage one another. You find out that, hey, I'm not the only person that's experienced this or gone through this.
Yeah, can you turn on that other fan there, Eli?
This?
Yeah. There we go. That's going to get hot in here real fast. All my hot air. Yeah, encouragement, that's a big one. Anything else that you guys have received maybe in groups?
Support. Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Same thing.
Help and support.
Friendship,
And friendship. For us, for my wife and I, the biggest thing that we've walked away from groups with is answered prayer. Because I think, well, I know you guys have experienced this. God just works in different ways, special ways when we're together. So, thank you. I wasn't looking for any answers. You guys said said it all. That's exactly why we have them. Just moving forward, I want to kind of define the two types of groups that we have and why each one is important. And then clarify that not everyone in this room is necessarily going to lean toward one or the other as well. So, I mentioned the two, life groups and learn groups. And you know what? I don't really care about the names, but we're going to have two different kinds of environments. Either way, no matter what the names are, lots of churches call them lots of different things. Life groups, we're defining the primary goal is relationships. So life groups meet for longer periods of time. You gain relationships through consistent meeting, through Bible study, through prayer, through having fun together over a long period of time. Learn groups, the environment is the primary goal is knowledge, biblical knowledge. My buddy Mike is super passionate about the fact that many people, I don't know, sometimes I feel like even myself, just don't know enough about the Bible. And for sure, many people at our church do not know enough about the Bible to have it actually soak in to their everyday lives. So knowledge is the primary goal. They're usually shorter in general. And so we get relationships, just not quite in the same way. So that's kind of just for our own discussion. Those two types of groups, and they bleed over a little bit. There are some learn environments that are going to feel like life groups. That's awesome. Good. And there are some life groups that are going to be like super, like you get a whole bunch of people who just love to dig into like the biblical text like Tyler does over here. Like you're going to have some awesome learning happening, but still the primary goal is relationships, right? Okay. All right, so we've got the same thing. Here's some language that I've been praying about for a year, and God has affirmed in multiple different ways. So this is not my language. This is language that I've received from probably conversations with every one of you and other people at our church. Specifically in life groups. So I want to hit on that, and these principles will ring true for any other groups that we have. But specifically in life groups, let's define the win. Okay? Have you guys heard of the 4 togethers that we've talked about a few times in other? Okay. Well, they're pretty simple. They're not revolutionary or anything. But a life group, a group of people meeting for an extended period of time, usually anywhere from 1 year to 18 months, is a good, healthy one. They're going to be winning if they are learning together and praying together, which, okay, lots of us do that. But the wins, so you know, the groups that are just chatting and like it's a social club, okay, that's not a win. So maybe we've been in groups like that, so let's just define that. We should be learning together. We for sure should be praying together. That's where the relational side of that comes. Like if we're not praying together, probably the relationships are going to be lacking. If we're just getting so deep into our Bible study that we neglect prayer every week. Learning together, praying together. And then the other two are the hard ones. Serving together and having fun together. Now, serving together is the hardest. It's the most difficult because it feels like it takes coordination. But serving together and having fun together, just like the other two, learning together and praying together, can coincide. So you can have fun with your group by serving. You know, that could be fun. Or you can just go to a stadium baseball game together. Whatever that looks like, That is a win. If we have those 4 things happening in all of our life groups, we're going to find ourselves in a very, very healthy church. Now, just curious, how many of you guys have experienced a group that all 4 of those things are just clicking? Bradfield's definitely a sales. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, a few of us, but not all of us, which I think should tell us that this is a high bar. It's not like just words that we're spitting out, and some kind of slogan that nobody is going to pay attention to. The reality is, this is how we define our win. And individually, as I have conversations with our life group leaders, this is what I'll be asking in the next 3 years as we grow together, because we're it's like sanctification. Like, this is a process, not a fix it now type of thing. I will admit that I've never had a group that has had all 4. I've never been in a group that has done all 4 at the same time. So I've had 3 of the 4. And then another group that had another 3, a different 3. But hey, this is a high bar. So here's what I'd like to do today. So this is for whether you've been leading a group here at Fall Creek for 5 years and you guys have a solid group, or you might be leading a group in 6 months, Lord willing. We're praying for 10 more, okay? I said 5 more last year and we got 3, and I praised the Lord for it. and this year we're gonna go big. We're praying for 10 more groups starting, both life groups and learn groups. So what I want to do with you guys is almost like an orientation. Even though you guys don't need to be oriented, anything that we talk about as if it's new, as if it's an orientation, even if your group has been meeting for 5 years, you can look at all these principles and you can say, okay, evaluate. Did we launch well? You can go back and say, okay, maybe something in my group isn't quite right. Maybe I can identify it because of how we launched. Or it's going awesome, and this is why it's awesome. Then, so we're kind of taking this approach, the takeoff, flight, and landing concept. So, launch, and then the flight. So maybe we're in the middle of a 5-year flight, and we're like, I don't understand why things aren't going that great. Maybe you've been in the air too long. I don't know. Or maybe there are just some things that God is calling you to, and you just need to listen. And then we'll talk about landing, which is probably the most important part of what we're going to talk about. So, we're going to watch this video so that you guys don't have to hear my voice for a solid hour. And this will tell us a little bit more about it.
Would you hop on a plane if you had no idea where it was going? Probably not. Just like airline passengers, the members of your group have a destination in mind. They want to connect with other people and grow in their relationship with God. It's your responsibility to chart a course to help get them there. That doesn't mean micromanaging everyone's spiritual growth. It means answering a couple of simple questions. Where are we going? And how can I help us get there? Just like a pilot flying a plane, it's easier to make sense of your journey if you break it up into stages. Takeoff, flight, and landing. Takeoff happens during the first 90 days of your group. The takeoff stage is all about developing relationships, because those relationships will propel spiritual growth for everyone during the remainder of your time together. Focus on doing 3 things during takeoff. First, chart your course. Work with your group to create an environment where you'll have the opportunity to connect with one another and pursue spiritual growth. Based on where every member is on his or her spiritual journey, think about which studies, resources, and experiences might help them take a next step. Second, align expectations. Remind group members that their responsibility is to show up, join in, and to be real. If they do those three things, your group will be an environment where people have the opportunity to connect and grow. Third, prioritize relationships. Groups that enjoy one another tend to experience the most significant growth. Help your group connect by telling your stories, serving together, and having fun. Now let's move on to the second stage, flight. These middle months are the longest part of your group's life cycle, and the time when it's easiest to turn on autopilot instead of steering towards your destination. Here are three things you can do to keep your group on course while you're in flight. First, stay on course. Remind your group why you do what you do, to grow personally and to eventually make space for others to join the group. People tend to forget that kind of stuff. Keep track of where you are and where you're headed. If you stray from the course you've set, you won't end up at the desired destination. Second, avoid routine. Staying on course creates a predictable environment where everyone feels safe enough to be themselves. But that doesn't mean groups should be boring. Plan interruptions to the normal rhythm of meetings by organizing socials, retreats, and service projects. Third, plan your landing. All groups end, but not all groups end well. Plan ahead of time who in your group might be ready to lead a group when you multiply. Keep an eye out for those people throughout your flight. Personally invite them into leadership so they can begin to share responsibilities with you. That leads us to the landing, the last 90 days of your group. Staying closed off as a group limits opportunities for influence. That's one reason group multiplication is so important. Here are three things you can do to avoid a bumpy landing and successfully multiply your group. First, talk about it. Not talking about the end of group sets your group up for a bad experience. And the way a group ends has a huge influence on how group members view the entire group experience. An airplane passenger who experiences a rough landing may be reluctant to ever fly again. And if a group doesn't end well, group members may be reluctant to stay in community. So remind your group that you're nearing the end of your time together. Be intentional about filling the last 90 days with celebration, encouragement, and fun. Second, talk about what's next. Be intentional about encouraging and challenging one another to take a next step. This group may be ending, but community continues. For some of your group members, multiplication will be an opportunity to step into leadership. Third, celebrate successes. It's important to point out growth when you see it, and then to celebrate it. Talk about the growth you've seen and experienced together. Take time to remember everything you've shared. It can be hard for groups to get excited about multiplying, but the ones that do it well increase their influence through the continued growth of their members, and by making space for others to enter into life-changing community. So, that's it. If you want to make the most of your group's time together, be intentional. Make a plan. Help your group navigate its takeoff, flight, and landing.
All right. Begin with the end in mind, I think, is kind of the principle with that. That was nothing revolutionary, was it? Like, that was just like, okay. I mean, that sounds good, right? All right, so this is where I need your experience. Can you guys maybe share an example of a group that you've been in, or that you're currently in, either one, that could have got off to a better start, could have been launched better? You guys have any examples of that? Okay. So it seems that the launch of the group is a little bit forgettable. But would you guys agree that the launch of the group sets up the group to win or lose? Okay. So you guys can use your papers as cheats when they talk about the flight, takeoff, so to speak. What are the 3 things that this video encourages you to, what's the best word, admonish your group members with? Show up.
Yeah.
Join in. And be real. Okay. Sounds really cliche, but the be real part, but it's true. So show up. And I'm just taking these notes, even though you guys might not be able to see them, just so that you guys tell me something and I write it down, then I can take a picture of it and send it to the other people who weren't here. All right, join in. And be real. Anything else that you guys would say if I was, if you were the one encouraging a new group leader who's never launched a group before, what advice would you have for them?
Personally, Susie and I, never, especially when we're starting something new, with new people that we're not real familiar with, we'll have a cookout ahead of time and just kind of get everybody together that can come and just kind of have a get to know time, we're in a relaxed, get to know some of their histories and stories and that type of thing. That's worked well for us in the past.
We've done that as well, and I think that's important because you can have people that are a little bit iffy, and you say, come to the cookout, meet the other people, there's no commitments. If you decide that you want to participate after that, so be it, but if you don't, no hard feelings or anything like that, it makes people a little more at ease and a chance to see who the other people are that they're going to yoke with for a period of time.
Try it before you buy it. I like that.
Take it a test drive, right?
No, but that's.
But also to have a meal together or something like that, rather than into God's Word, it's less threatening as such, and people tend to be more real.
Not having experience in the group, except since I've been here. But I think initially, first off, what's the mission or the purpose of the group? What are we going to do?
Just be clear.
What's our goal?
I love that. And maybe that can happen at the hangout.
Yeah, the cookout yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so clarify the mission. All right, I love that.
I think another thing is have people that have their same experiences, that you're going through the same kind of life, Some of you would not like our life group.
Why, Skip? Why?
Some of you have not experienced life. You think you've experienced life. Wait till you're 70, 80 years old. I can look around my life group, I can look around, and there's life.
Yeah.
There's life. There's widows there that's lost their husbands. Some of you haven't lost your husband. There's people in my life group that's lost their husbands. See, that all comes together, and you can come together and experience those things. We have people come in on walkers. We have people have cancer. We have people they live life. Hope that never happens to any of you, but it's probably going to happen to you. And so if you can get engaged with people that's going through the same things you're going through, it really helps, because we started a life group out with, how was your week? By the time we get through the doctor's appointments, it's just saying.
Class of 57.
Amen, brother.
Wow.
My parents were new. They were.
Oh
group because there's 20 kids running around. Like,
Yeah.
Talking about not sleeping.
Right.
Poopy diapers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think,
True.
so maybe that goes 2 steps back to the recruiting process. I'll just ask the question. I know you guys know this answer, so just say it, even though it's a dumb question. What's the best way to get people in your group?
Go up and ask them.
Ask them, talking to them. That's right, yeah. I called it out as a dumb question because you guys all know it. But I think sometimes, especially our biggest opportunity to do that, to find people that need to be in a group, can very easily get diluted. For me, it gets diluted by tearing down the worship stuff. But even when I'm not doing worship ministry, it mostly gets diluted by, I gotta go get my kids. And then as soon as I get my kids, I can't talk to anybody like for more than 5 seconds because they're gonna go break something. Anyway, we all have things that happen on Sundays, on weekends, that dilute our ability or can dilute our ability to make the invite. Have you guys experienced this in a good way? Like, have you guys actually had people join your group just because you just went up and asked them if they're in the group? Yeah?
It's almost like they're dying for somebody to ask.
Please.
Sometimes.
Please.
Not always, but.
Right. And maybe ask again.
Follow up.
Because maybe your night doesn't work, or but that next season and their life looks a little bit better. Whatever that looks like. It could be, health concerns. It could just be a stage of life that they're in, or they're going through a really hard time with their parents. No matter what it is, you make that initial contact, and the question is pretty easy, right? Hey, are you in a group? That's not threatening. It's like, no, we haven't gotten. Oh, I get it. I wasn't in a group for about however long when I first got here. Anyway, anything else? If you're giving advice for launching a group, what other advice would you guys give?
Just being completely authentic yourself. You can't expect anybody else to do that if you're not doing it yourself.
So maybe that's in the first couple meetings, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Right? No, I don't think that's in flight. I think that's in here. So maybe lead the way with authenticity. Terrible handwriting. All right. Now, can you spill too much too early? So the first meeting, talk about your deepest, darkest sins and secrets. Could be a little awkward. But being maybe a good term, a synonym in group context would be vulnerability. So just making yourself vulnerable. I love that. Thank you, Alyssa. Anything else? Mostly because you guys have tons of wisdom and I just don't want to miss anything, any gold.
What worked well, just out of curiosity, for someone who's new, what worked well for some of the more seasoned people that have led before? What worked well for you guys? Just in general, like, did you follow a book and kind of like say, this is the book, was everyone in agreement to that, or was it up to the leader, kind of when you got that plan? What are some things that worked well for? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, we've done it all.
Yeah.
We've done videos, we've done workbooks, we've done out of the scriptures themselves. I think it just depends upon the dynamic of the group. Susie and I have been in groups now for 10 years, and we've had a mixture, we've been in groups where there's been middle-aged people, older people, and once in a while some younger people. That dynamic's a lot different than the group that we're in now. The group we're in now is a little bit older. And that group, and Ted, you correct me if I'm wrong, is more interested in the Bible
Okay.
and the Word itself, and that's what we're doing. Now, I think the group leader has to kind of determine and pray about where God wants to lead them in that, and just kind of get some feedback maybe from maybe a couple of the individuals, and just go from there, just jump in. But that's been my experience anyway.
So Don, what did you do before the group got together?
Yeah.
So like you're recruiting people,
Yeah.
did you tell them, hey, we're
Yeah.
gonna be studying this?
Yeah, it's happened, but I've had people give me their opinion,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like, I've seen this, would like to do this.
Okay,
Then I've had other people say, well, whatever the group wants to do.
okay.
And that's why I think it's important that you kind of maybe talk to some and you really pray about it. And I think the Holy Spirit will kind of guide you in that direction, the way, you should go with your individual group anyway. But yeah, I've had it, it's interesting. That's kind of one of the cool things about it. We had one group one time, they wanted to do a Francis Chan video,
Okay.
and we did, and it was good. And everyone enjoyed it. And then the next time we thought, well, let's do the Book of Acts, which was a long study. And we did that. So I mean, it just depends, but it's all good if you're just let the Holy Spirit lead you.
I think that's part of that upfront process,
Yeah.
whether at get together for a
Yes.
meal or something like that,
Yes.
or the first meeting, you open up for discussion as to where the group as a whole would like to go, and I think you're more likely to attract people that way, that they have an input of,
Yeah.
what they want to study
Yeah.
versus we're here because
Yeah.
we said we'd be.
Yeah.
That's great.
I know when I was approaching the older ladies for the Golden Girls group, I made sure they understood, because I know a lot of them have commitments with babysitting for grandchildren and so forth, that because we were doing a devotional, it wasn't something that they had to worry about if they had to miss, because it's not like a study where if you miss out, you can try
Right.
to catch up. And so I think they like that, just knowing that there wasn't that kind of commitment for them. Right, and then we open up with usually some kind of little funny, I have a little funny videos I show, and you can probably hear us laughing all over the building. And it really has helped them to open up and start talking and visiting among one another. We started out with just 5 or 6, and this last time we had 12 ladies. And I have 2 new ones coming this next time.
But do you think that you as a group leader would have been able to have those elements that are just right for your group without knowing each of these ladies individually before you invited them?
I don't think I could. I saw that I thought there was a need for these ladies to be able to get together.
Okay.
They're lonely, a lot of them are widow ladies. And like I said, it needed to be non-committal because some of them are already in other life groups.
Yep.
And I knew that would need to be entertaining, but yet also focus on, when we get into the devotion and we really have a pretty deep discussion about those at times. And it also helps them see the needs of other people sitting there at the table, that they could say to themselves, this person probably could use a card from me or a visit from me. And we're also starting out a branch out, I'm going to do a few things together.
Okay.
Another thing about that I like is that you have it titled the Golden Girls. Well, obviously, when you hear that, you guys are probably
Exactly.
not even interested in
Group that-
attending that. You know what I mean? So
That's
you know
exactly
right
right.
up front that what
Yeah.
you might be fitting into and what you want.
Yeah, clarifying the mission of the,
Yeah.
you already mentioned that, which is even better. Like not only the mission, but hey, what does this dynamic look like? I'm gonna show up at Skip's group next week. With my wife and 3 kids.
Kids won't like prune juice.
Kids, what they like the insurance?
Oh, man.
You love
All right.
It's all, peace laugh, it's all coming.
If we're lucky. The elder statesman in the group has let us know it's coming. All right, man, we haven't exhausted.
And real quick,
Yeah.
tactically, maybe it's for the flight section, but do you have any thoughts or advice on, like, how long the group should last? Should you start, like, just hanging out for 10, 15 minutes and then doing something, or do that after, or, and then the last thing, would be, how often to meet, is it weekly, bi-weekly, or is it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, 2 years ago, I would have had very different answers. But as I've been getting to know the group leaders here, getting to experience a group, I'm in a group with Emily and Matt Gray, and so I've experienced the group. I've talked to other groups and that were just starting, other groups that were landing, like they're doing the whole landing thing, and other groups that just dissolved. So I've talked to a whole bunch and I've learned a lot. So here's what I'm hearing from a lot of people. Number one, the length of the group depends on the stage of the group. Skip's group could never get done in an hour. No way. Like, they'd probably try, right? Ish, but there's no way.
I think we meet at 7 and we might there till 9 o'clock.
Yeah, okay. They're all falling asleep on the way home.
Yeah.
You know.
Some fall asleep.
So I have also, in our experience, maybe Emily, you can correct me in this, an hour is tough, like with little kids. We feel like it's just getting good.
Yeah.
And another thing, so these are just principles. Let me go just real quick to young families. What I'm hearing is childcare is in every single group really, really difficult. So if you're launching a group, here's my recommendation. Don't just have it be at your house. You can have it at your house. But think through when my kids are sick, what will we do? Think through, we haven't, like, Emily and Matt, like, we were in good conversation before the group started, and they came to a point they were just like, we're gonna want to kill our kids if they're in our house. Like, we don't have a great room, and our kids are so young, even if we did, they'd come in here and bother us. Anyway, so that became apparent, so we had to bob and weave. It's great.
We drop them off here at the church and have a babysitter come to the church. We just live 2 doors down from Tom and Andy, just a mile away. So everybody drops their kids off here and then they come over. Yeah. And then the kids can play in the nursery or play in the gym or whatever. We have a girl that comes in. We do bi-weekly.
Yeah,
Because
we do
every week
bi-weekly.
is too much. There's too much of
And here's the other side of that though. So what we've found is that with bi-weekly, if you miss a week,
Yeah, I know.
Big deal.
it's a huge deal.
You don't see people for a whole month
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
And the relationship, which is the primary goal of
Yeah.
a longer term group, is then it's not ruined. Obviously, you're still gonna be friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty good friends with Matt Gray. Like
Yeah.
we got pretty tight. But I would recommend, if you can make it work,
Yeah.
weekly. Like that way, if you miss a week, you're good. If it is bi-weekly, have the backup plan. Plan your dates ahead of time with your group. So go whether it's a month at a time or 2 months at a time. Get out your calendars and plan it. If you're going to do every other week that way, you could all make it work. So those are just practical things in what I'm hearing. This isn't just our group. I know the SEALs have, man, you guys have bobbed and weaved in 20 different ways, right?
I was just asking what they do.
We started all as like young couples, and then we all started having kids, and then
Yeah.
everything went crazy, so
Yeah.
we've gone every which way you can imagine, yeah.
Don and Susie have bobbed and weaved in multiple different ways. They live forever away. And so they've leveraged our building. Well, that might be right for a group. I personally experienced, when I was in a church, our first church after we got married was about Fall Creek size. And at the stage of groups ministry as Fall Creek. We decided, okay, we just need to be in a group, so let's just meet at the church because it's the easiest. We'll pay someone to watch the kids in the other room, and that way we can leverage like an hour and 15 minutes of time. An hour, I would say, minimum hour and 15 minutes if you can make it happen, time-wise. Anyway, so that group, just so you know, just blew up just because it was convenient for young couples, and like we went from 5 couples to 25 couples in a matter of like 6 months. And so we like multiplied throughout the church.
Yeah.
We just did a natural multiplication. We became individual groups, part of a bigger collective, kind of had a social time. You know. Anyway, so there is no right way to do it. In fact, I think what I'm hearing more and more from more people is that the structure of providing time frames. So what we are going to provide time frames. We're going to provide seasons. So my recommendation is 12 to 18 months for a group's life cycle. Now, some of you guys have been in groups for like 5 years. We're not going to like. I remember meeting with Lonnie and Mike when I first came. We're not going to dictate that. You guys had an amazing group. For how long have you guys been running Saturday nights?
Since Saturday night started.
3 years?
Yeah, it'll be 3 years in October, right?
And you guys, I mean, you guys weren't crashing. No, you guys love each other. So it can happen, but here's where we've skipped flight, going into a conversation about landing. All groups end at some time. The question is, are they going to end well or are they going to crash? And unfortunately, just this year, we've had 2 life groups crash. It almost always results in trauma, and it almost always results in at least one family who will never be in a small group again. I mean, they said it in passing on the video, but like I saw it happen this year. If you experience a rough landing and you're already scared about a flight, you're probably never going to get on a plane. And that's what we see in group life. So planning a landing, here's what this can look like. You start talking about, hey, you know, we plan on meeting for 1.5 years. We're in this 1.5 years, you know, here's what we're going to see every 12 to 15 weeks. And this is not just, this is going to be as close to structure as our life group ministry will provide. We're going to try to have all of our life groups run in a 12 to 15 week cycle and take small breaks in between. You know, I'll be communicating starting this fall what those cycles are. But here's what this provides. If a family, if a couple, if an individual needs an off-ramp because they don't want to hurt your feelings, but this isn't good for them right now, or there's a conflict that just is not healthy. You know, I've had multiple life group leaders tell me, you know, this person needs to leave because it's not healthy, but how do they leave without it hurting people's feelings? So, small on-ramps and off-ramps. And in that 12 to 15 week session, there's a break. Well, guess what? If it's safe for your group in that break, that you have met someone at church and you're like, they need to be in community, our group is on board with taking on new people, it's safe, then take them in. Then all of a sudden, we have groups not only that are giving opportunities for people to leave, but also leaving themselves open for 12 to 15 weeks of safety, and then opening it up to the group to say, hey, can we accept new people? Most groups are going to be like, absolutely. But there are going to be some groups that are like, could we wait until next season? The next 12 to 15 weeks. So that's the structure that we'll provide, is it just ministry-wide, at least with the life groups, we're going to go in seasons and do our best to have evaluations at the end of each season. You know, just like, hey, you know, I got an email from Aaron asking how the group is going. Well, I'm not trying to check in on our leaders and like spy on them, but I know that our leaders want to do better, right? Like, if I could check in with you guys, and I will at the end of this meeting, and find out, how am I doing right now? Are you bored? Or like, that would actually help me. Like, I want to know how I'm doing, and so those are the cycles that we're going to have, so that we can get better, we can have healthier groups, and Lord willing, when it does come time to land, it won't feel like you're breaking up with your girlfriend. So, all right. Or divorcing, even worse. All right. I was planning on having full, lots more time for flight. Can you guys maybe tell me, for flight, we've talked a little bit about the learning and praying a little bit. Can you guys tell me some good experiences that you've had with groups that have served together or had fun together that you're just like, this is awesome, you guys should try this? You guys have any examples of that?
For a while, we did where we were serving each other. So we had a Saturday where we would all show up to somebody's house in the group, and we'd get a project done together for that person. And it was awesome because it was like, hey, I didn't want to clean my windows. Hey, everybody.
That's cool.
You're
the wrong group.
You're welcome. It worked out really well because we had like somebody that was moving, so we like did all the deep cleaning for them. I mean, it was, so we served each other. It doesn't always have to be, I mean, of course you want to go out with it, but together too. So it was cool.
If relationships are your goal.
Yeah, we usually break in the summer because we all are crazy, but then we get together and do like summer projects.
Wasn't expecting that. Fantastic.
I think too, you gotta have these things where it doesn't become a job. Right. Most of you women understand this more than us men do. When it becomes a job, that a woman's gotta clean her house, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, all the things you gotta do to have this meeting. And that'll send people away quicker than anything. As long as you can keep it, hey, I wanna go there, I'm enjoying this. Once it becomes a job, then pretty soon people are gonna start, ooh-wee.
Healthy hosts.
Yeah, you have to want to host.
Healthy hosts. Yes. You're going to enjoy it. I would argue that it's a spiritual gift.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
Okay, I don't have to argue that. It's not.
Yeah.
But, yeah, healthy hosts.
Yeah.
So what that can look like is a host and a facilitator. Separate people. It could look like the facilitator is the host. And I think, Skip, you guys go around to different houses, right?
Take turns, so it's not just on one.
And that's kind of become a job to some of the ladies. Well, when you have to sit on the floor, we can't sit on the floor. We got too many people in our group, and the houses aren't big enough. So we've got about 4 or 5 of them now that's got big, nice homes that we go to.
Okay.
And I also recommended, let's go to church. we'll go use the church. In fact, I've got time set up for it. But there's some that do not want to come to church. They want to keep it in the home, they enjoy that, and so, and that's another thing, doing what your life group wants. Don't do what you want to do, do what your life group wants.
Yeah. And I think also that goes with the season you are in your life. I remember when Mike and I had Bible studies at our house every Thursday night when the kids were small. So I was the hostess and he was the facilitator. And so that meant that every Thursday I would make sure, because I knew for sure my house would be clean once a week for, for that. So I had a chance to, so that kind of fit in the season of our life at that point.
So that was good for you?
Oh yeah, it was good. Oh, we wouldn't have done it if it wasn't there.
Okay.
That was good for, because I had a purpose for doing this and, so that worked out well. So that was a helping host type situation for me in that season of my life. So personally now, where we're at in our life as far as we're the empty nesters, it's let's get together after service so we can have our worship, we can have our time Bible study, and then after that we all go out to eat together. So we've got everything in one package on Saturday night. So, so again, just the season you're at in your life, that might be way too long for skips people. They need a nap between.
That's right.
But,
well, and this can happen too with learning environments. So a lot of learning environments are going to be hosted here at church. I mean, it's a very natural thing. It's a central meeting place. But some of our learning environments are going to be hosted in homes. So this can happen on smaller scales. I have had lots of conversations with people who just, they're geared toward the knowledge side. And they're going to do much better in an 8-week learning group. That it's a fast launch, a very, very, very short flight, and then a landing. Very clear. And you know what? That is awesome. Well, you still want to think about these things. You still want to clarify, who this is for. If it has to do with childcare, you want to clarify it ahead of time. This is our plan. Or we need a home, we need a host, and start recruiting a host. I think this can be something that you really think through, and frankly, I would say, and I'll just shout out to Matt and Emily, they've been humble enough to ask other people in our group if they want to host. And then if everybody says no, they're just like, okay.
We love hosting, but we're happy to go somewhere else.
That's the
So we change every week.
Yeah.
We never go to the same place. We change every week.
And that works for you guys.
Now, when I was an elder when this first started. Tom came here 10 years, 11, 12 years ago. And he's the one that said we need to start these. We had no idea. So all the elders went out and got him a life group. We started that. But back then, his idea was to have a meal. Then do your Bible study and everything. That became a job.
It became a job.
So now we just have treats and things like that. It's
Coffee,
whatever you're,
cookies.
and some life groups let us still have a meal, go out, and
I'll tell you right now.
these old women not gonna cook a meal.
I'll tell you right now, with Melissa and I,
Yeah.
if we're hosting a group, depending on who's facilitating it, or if we're doing both, we will have a meal. Now, that meal does not look like Melissa cooking it. No way on earth. We're lucky if we
That's
can
a
get the
job.
house clean
Yeah.
by the time everybody comes. We've only ever experienced a good experience with potlucks.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even going to talk about meals, but that's a good thing, If Eli and Amanda are like, having a meal sounds like that's going to make us unhealthy. Well, if you guys are going to be a host, be a healthy host, whatever that looks like for you.
Just don't
Potluck.
make it a job. Just
Don't make it a job.
Well,
Don't
learn to
make it a
delegate.
job.
Yeah, that was something I had.
Learn to delegate.
Ooh,
I
well,
knew-
learn to make. Okay.
Oh, you thought you were going to
yes,
share your fudge with us.
Well, Carl brought fudge, and part of our class is in here.
See, there's my life group, I'm telling you.
See, so
Okay.
if you want some here,
Toss it
snack.
on the table.
Thank you.
Gotta get somebody's paper.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad that came up.
See, I can learn something. Homemade fudge and my like, I'm lucky to go to Aldi and grab cookies.
Bring it on, right?
Put on a pot of coffee.
Just ask Carl next time.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I got 2 great grandkids I'm supposed to take to them.
Hey, no judgment here.
But one thing I wanted to, those groups that you're in, that's how the church started. You're a church.
Yes.
That's how the church, that small group, Paul preached to 5 or 6 people, 10 people.
Yeah.
So it's important that they hear the word, that they understand, because you're a church. That's how it started. You can have entertainment, you can have all this you want to do, but as you look around that room, that's your church. That's how it started. And if the world keeps going the way it's going, it might go back to that. You know, you might have to start meeting in homes. We don't know how Satan's going to do this world, and God's going to let him. But it's just,
Do that in other countries now.
yeah. And so these things are very important, and they ought to be a place to you can get together and talk about God and grow from it, learn from it. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. And I'm just glad we got 15.
Yeah, that's great.
This is, yeah. God's good, man. I walked into something good. I've tried to give Andrew as many high fives as possible because his faithfulness has paid off in many ways. So, thank you, Skip. I know you gotta go love on those great grandkids. Hey, one thing, we've got about 3 minutes before Tom wraps up. Insert laugh here. About 3 minutes. I would love to talk about, have any of you guys experienced a smooth landing that you'd like to talk about? Because they don't happen often.
I don't know if I would call it smooth, but our life group has transitioned from going as couples to just the women, to back to couples, to now we're gonna go back to just the women and the guys can do whatever they want. It feels like it's a bit of a landing because it's not all of us together, but we've kind of broken up a couple of times and then all reunited. So just, yeah, like what you're doing right there, adapting to the needs of what's happening.
So you're like, the wives will meet one week and then the men will meet the second?
We did that where it was like bi-weekly, but the guys 1 week, girls, and then you watched your own kids. So there was no childcare at that point.
Yet again, something that I was not expecting, but yes, I think that's a great way to talk about a group trying to stay healthy by just doing what's right for the group. I love that.
I think too, instead of the off-ramp usually you're in flight, when you're talking every 12 or 15 weeks, right? You do your launch, definitely just bring that up. Say, hey, if you don't like this group, you can get out here sooner. You know? You're going to have an option, so they don't feel bad. But let them know it's there ahead of time.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll share the wisdom with someone who's not here, and he's just sharing the wisdom of a famous preacher. There's a concept that I firmly believe in, I strongly believe in, which is called praying for the empty chair. So most of us will have a kitchen chair that we can bring into our group. This takes a lot of intentionality to do this, but you bring that chair out every week, and during your prayer time, you remind the group that there's somebody at our church that is not experiencing what we are experiencing. So that terminology came directly from somebody in our church. Someone here, someone at Fall Creek is not experiencing what we have here. This is awesome. That's assumed. You know, if it's terrible, then maybe you don't want to say those words. But this is awesome. There's someone who's not experiencing this. Let's pray for them. Very simple. Then, when that moment comes, that burden is a shared burden. The burden of needing to multiply, if that is the case, it's a shared burden. Any other insights on multiplication?
Don't be afraid to invite people that aren't at a church.
Good point.
That was our
Good
question,
point.
are we able to invite?
Good
Because I've done that.
Good
I'm not, I hope I don't sound like I know everything.
No, you
But
don't.
like
You're
we've been
fine.
doing it for like 7 years. And that's how I've gotten more people in, is like my coworker, my friend, like they came in and now they go to our church.
I love that. You guys, church attendance is going down significantly, even with those of us who love Jesus deeply. Okay? Just is what it is. I personally believe that our small groups ministry needs to be bigger than our weekend church attendance. Not because that's ideal, but because our culture is there. And if people, like Skip said, if people are in group, they're at church. I agree that this is better, this is good, like we need it, but you can't be discipling someone who's not in community. Right? So, I love that. Thank you, Alyssa. Any other insights before we wrap up? We're going to pray over all the groups represented.
I know when we ended our Bible study that we were hosting at my house last year, the last meeting that we had, we didn't actually do a study, we just had a big cookout, so it was a little bit more relaxed and it was kind of easier for everyone to step up after that.
It sounds simple, right? But it's not always natural. We had one more chapter that we needed to study, right? No, that's what it is. I love that. Yeah, so exactly what you did here, setting up a hangout, end well by hanging out.